Is it summer already? What's the channel like? Oh. Oh, I better do another one. Is Battlefield 5 worth it? You stupid. No. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Alright, cut the music. Let's actually talk about the game. When Battlefield 5's trailer came out, we were all stunned by the trailer. Not because we weren't interested in the game, but by the direction that the game was being taken. And everyone was just talking about it. Well, it could be this or it could be that. But when DICE told everyone that the game was based on World War II, we were very confused with that statement. Okay. Maybe they're taking an artistic direction, just to expand the game, to make things easier for them. Okay. Maybe they wanted to show the other side of history, of how everyone was affected by the Second World War. Alright. Let's talk about the lead up to this game. You cannot talk about Battlefield 5 without talking about the abysmal lead up and the downright horrendous marketing. I have no problem with Trevor Noah, but I personally can't see him as a gamer, let alone a huge Battlefield fan. Why would you pick a comedian as the official spokesperson for the newest title? Why not many other content creators like Levelcat, Matimio, X Factor, people that would have left an actual impact in the gaming community? We know exactly why you chose Noah. It's because you want to make your game feel inclusive. Politics and gaming don't mix unless you make it as unbiased and informative as possible. But nope, we're going to go straight into the gamers don't know their history, or my daughter is a gamer and I don't want to make her feel excluded from the game. You really want your daughter to go through World War II, man? Really? Father of the Year, ladies and gentlemen. EA should have known that this game wasn't going to sell. But in classic EA fashion, they don't listen to the people that actually supply them their fortune. They just bite the hand that feeds them. Oh wait, that did already happen after COD Modern Warfare destroyed Battlefield 5 in pre-orders. I won't be going too in-depth with Battlefield's launch, since there are other people that are much more qualified than me. Actually talking about the game, we have multiple options to choose from, such as the campaign, multiplayer, Firestorm, and surprisingly co-op. Starting with the campaign, we have multiple campaigns to choose from. Starting with the British campaign, we are a small band of saboteurs crossing German lines to sabotage an airbase. This is the only campaign that tries its hardest to be funny by having an older and younger soldier work together, and at first they hate each other, then after some time together they start to bond like father and son. I really didn't pay too much attention to the story. I only mostly remember the I am Billy fucking Bridger.
Are you Billy Bridger? Oh, yes, you did. Because you're Billy Bridger. Tell me, Bridger. Bridger live in your...
I've Cracker special, courtesy of Billy Bridger.
Jesus Christ, Bridger. Bridger.
Jesus Christ, Bridger. Billy. Sounds about right.
Or are you Billy Bridger, a tryout?
I am. Oh, Billy fucking Bridger!
Well, I'm going to say it, Bridger.
And the locked up German soldier.
Halt! Miss Idea!
Hallo? Ist da jemand? Bitte.
Next would be the Norway story. It focuses on a young woman stopping the heavy water plant and saving her mother from the Germans. This one is actually based on a World War II raid by the British soldiers stopping Germans from using heavy water for atomic research. In reality, the raid was very successful and stopped the Germans. In Battlefield's reality, it failed, and a young girl somehow topped multiple German bases and stopped the heavy water from going to Germany. I can't really say much other than it's just an okay short story, and its only highlights would be the skiing mechanics that we use. Whee! The next, or final campaign, if you bought the game on release, is the French campaign based on African soldiers fighting in the French army. This one I really liked. It shows how people's biases were more important than the actual history on what happened. This campaign shows the struggles that the African people had to face and how they were treated by the French. They were first shown digging trenches when one captain or lieutenant volunteered the African French forces to the front lines, and their desire to be treated as equals with the French, not as lower beings. I personally think that this was the best campaign out of all of them. It was so emotional and dark, holding almost nothing back, such as executing surrendering soldiers because the German higher-ups don't want any African POWs, or the shame of being killed by people less than them. And the ending after Dimi loses his brother, Idrissa, and them taking down the German fortifications and the soldiers treating them as equals was so touching. And when they lined up for the photo and just watching them slowly erase all the African soldiers from the photo just for French morale was very touching. Makes you really think, how many times has this happened in history? Just like the Harlem Hellfighters. Whew. Finally, we reached the end. The final campaign starring the Germans? Oh no, it's coming. This can't be right. They're bad guys, right? Anyway, this final campaign shows the German soldiers defending their homeland from the invading allies. This stars Peter, the commander of the infamous Tiger Tank, plowing through Germany, trying to take back the fatherland. Pushing through Germany, we can see what happens when soldiers don't follow their orders and desert in order to preserve their lives. And watching how these soldiers just follow these orders to the letter with no remorse or thought, especially when some have never seen any combat or even death. And as the fight continues, the lies they tell themselves and others in order to maintain order and unconditional loyalty. And watching as Peter starts to see the lies that has been told on him and the inevitable defeat of the German army starts to sink in, especially when Kurtz keeps telling him that it's not worth dying for anymore, especially since High Command has been lying to them in order to preserve their own skins. And watch Peter finally snap out the unconditional loyalty when the young private guns down his own men for deserting, watching his best friend die right in front of him, and finally understanding the situation he is in with the allies surrounding him is just heartbreaking.
Die haben uns verraten. Die haben die Brücke gesprengt. Die wollen uns hier verrecken lassen.
Das weißt du nicht, Kerz. Komm, wir müssen jetzt...
Was? Stärke zeigen. Hä? Herrgott doch mal. Sieh dich doch um, Peter. Gott steh uns bei. Alles, woran wir geglaubt haben. Alles, was wir dafür getan haben. Es ist vorbei.
Nein, Kerz. Komm. Tu das nicht, Kerz.
Peter, es ist vorbei.
Er war ein Verräter.
Kerz! Kerz!
Ich weiß, er war ein Freund. Aber er ist desertiert. Gemeinsam sind wir stärker, richtig? Die Schwachen überleben nicht. Das waren doch ihre Worte, oder?
Bei dir
Sagen
geht's.
Sie's! War das nicht so? Just give up, damn it! Sie sollen jetzt zurück in den Panzer steigen.
Cutscenes are done beautifully throughout the game, but the actual gameplay is just average at best and slow at worst. And the weird tone shift from something somewhat goofy to suddenly super serious? When going through the campaign, you'll have challenges to complete or letters to find to fully complete the levels. These are just rewards with skins and melee weapons for the multiplayer, so realistically, not even worth it. If you complete every challenge and click every letter, you'll see a small check mark under the chapter's name to indicate that you've completed it. The only thing that I hate about these challenges is that you need to be online in order to complete them or even start them. So if I had to leave and your system shuts down or your power is down just for a little bit, the challenges just disappear. And you have to go back to the main menu in order to reconnect online and reconnect the challenges. On that end note, I think the campaigns are generally well done. It's just they need a little more polish just to make them feel justified. Next, starting off is co-op, and it's very bare bones and has minimal effort into it. No reason to play it other than if you have friends and you don't feel like playing multiplayer. That's it. Originally, they're supposed to be automatically generated, and they're supposed to be so unique. But nope, that never happened. They're just general missions for everyone. That's it. They're just so bland and boring. It's just campaign with extra steps. Next up would be Firestorm. I think this had some really big potential if it had a lot more time and development into it. Firestorm was the equivalent to Call of Duty Modern Warfare's Battle Royale. It has so many unique mechanics introduced into it, and it could have had way more potential if it was free to keep the player base engaged. But unfortunately, you had to pay $60 for the whole BR, and at that point, it just wasn't even worth it, especially since DICE and EA basically closed it off almost immediately. There's no point in playing it anymore. Even now, you can find just a few players playing the game, but whether or not they're boosters and they're working together in solos to give that other person a win, or they're doing something else, or they're just playing to win, who knows? You can find a few dedicated people. Not enough to make the whole experience immersive, but if you want to play it, it's fun. It's somewhat eerie to have a giant wall of fire going through everything. It feels more like a horror game than anything else right now, since you don't know where the enemy's at, and because of the lower player count. Lastly, it must be the multiplayer. This is the real meat and bones of the Battlefield franchise. This is the one thing everybody comes for. And how is it? Okay. Yeah. That's all I have to say about the multiplayer. Truth be told, going more in depth, I do find a lot more problems going into the multiplayer than I do anything else, but that comes down from what DICE was trying to go for with their multiplayer. DICE wanted to introduce a more casual player base, especially with the extreme changes to the TTK, or time to kill, and the lack of ammunition that you get when you start off, and have these lower level players constantly come back. The more casual fan base than anything else was their main goal throughout Battlefield's life cycle during their production, rather than appealing to the hardcore fans. Along with a very predatory store, I do think the game is very disappointing to the fact that it could have been one of the better Battlefield games, especially after following Battlefield 1, but they chose that path off of one person's suggestion to be more political. There are people better than me that can explain the whole situation way better than what I can actually tell you. But I digress. It's like EA had no trust in the player base to buy their game, and they just thought it was just so much easier to go with political side than to appeal to actual gamers. Even with all the updates and the free content that we got throughout the game's lifecycle, I still can't find true enjoyment in the game. I'm impressed with it coming back from what was supposed to be a dead game right off the bat into an okay game that had a lot more potential than what most of the other Battlefield games had come out. I mean, it's not the best comeback, not compared to Battlefield 4's comeback, but I give them props for trying to give this game a comeback and try to retain the player base that they easily wanted to get rid of. When going for 100%, you have a couple of trophies that are pretty easy to get, mostly story related and difficulty related, but the hardest ones are truly the multiplayer trophies, and these I despise. These are the worst type of trophies to get, especially later on in life when games start dying down in their population base. And you're probably thinking, well, most of them are pretty easy. Oh yeah, they are. Play Conquest on every map, on the base maps, no DLCs. Pretty easy stuff. Get killed in multiplayer, get killed with sidearms, run over people. Stuff that is generally easy and you can get on almost any playthrough or even 10 minutes of playing multiplayer. The real problem comes from one trophy alone. Death from above. This trophy requires you to get in an airplane and kill 5 enemy players that are using AA turrets. Not vehicles, turrets. So you know what that means? Guess what? You having to fight over 31 different players, having to get a plane, and then hoping one out of the other 32 players on the enemy team gets on a damn AA gun and sits there. But even then, there's no guarantee that you can get it. It sucks. Even if you look on the PlayStation forums or Xbox forums and all that stuff, people boost for this trophy still. I don't know why games do this. I hate multiplayer trophies in almost every game, especially when you come back years later. If you're not in the fray or the game does not bounce in popularity, such as Call of Duty or Overwatch, you're almost never going to get multiplayer trophies, and I hate that. That is the thing I despise the most when getting platinums or 100% in games are multiplayer trophies. I understand you want to challenge players. I understand that, but oh my goodness. Stop making it impossible. Some servers in other games, especially older games, barely have enough people playing to fill up one lobby, let alone to have enough people to do anything else for multiplayer. These are the bane of every trophy hunter's existence. You want an example? Look at Killzone. Yeah, remember that game had a multiplayer? I bet you didn't. That thing died off right after the PS4 came out. Could I truly recommend the game if you're a fan? Yeah, but you have to be a more experienced Battlefield fan than what you would typically expect. So if you start off with Battlefield 4 or 1, then this might not be the exact game for you, but I still say give it a shot. That would be a curious buy at best. But if you've been around for a long time, whether you've been from Bad Company or the original game from 1942, then I think you have no problem entering Battlefield 5's life cycle, or what's left of its life cycle. Now, for this section, I had other stuff written down for Battlefield 2042 before its release. I played its beta for like 2 hours, and I did not enjoy it. Plain and simple. And after Battlefield 2042's reception and launch, I don't think I'll be touching that game for a while. Unless it goes free, then maybe I'll touch it and talk about it. But other than that, I wouldn't worry about it. But I will admit, giving Battlefield 1 and Battlefield 5 its boost in player base now is very impressive. And the fact that there's more players now to play against than it was when I did the videos. Like, I recorded this a long time ago. I'm not going to lie. I think it's very impressive that one Battlefield game flops and 2 more decide to come back, which is hilarious. Normally, most people stick to the current game and wait for the next release, but they didn't do it for this one, which is hilarious. But I digress, as I said. I am very disappointed with this, but it happens, unfortunately. This isn't fully what I expected from a Battlefield game. I understand that a lot of the veterans are leaving. They're moving on to bigger, better projects, so I commend them for doing that. I can't blame them, especially taking better opportunities, especially getting away or creating their own gaming studios, which I am very thrilled because these people know what they're doing and they need to give the younger generation a chance to shine. But I do think that this game was kind of, if not probably the worst launch before 2042 that came out. And now with 2042's launch, I mean, not coming up with even the simple scoreboard is just miraculous in of it itself. I still can't believe that this game exists. And the fact that it even came back is a more impressive verdict than anything else. Not as impressive as Battlefield 4. I guarantee you can go on those games, Battlefield 4, Battlefield 3, you're still going to find a server or two, custom servers at most. They're mostly going to be like your original lockers or your Metro. But hey, it keeps the game alive, and it pays EA and DICE, and it brings us back to a more simpler time when we weren't as naive and hoping for the best for Battlefield. And Battlefield 1, even though I didn't personally enjoy it to the degree of everyone else, I still liked it. Don't get me wrong. I have my own problems with that. Maybe that'll be a video. Maybe it won't. Who knows? But at the end of the day, this game is just okay. And I hate saying that, especially from a team of developers that have 3-4 years of game development and just being able to do what they need and figuring out with all this information and so many roadmaps behind them. The fact that no one looked back and said anything is more the impressive part, especially with Battlefield 4. That is the problem. Battlefield 4 just blew everyone's expectations out of the water. The game went from complete trash and unplayable to all of a sudden being the best Battlefield game out there. And you can't blame them. They stopped all production. They stopped everything to fix Battlefield 4. Hardline was delayed because of that. Other teams got delayed on their projects to help out. And that fact that DICE recognized that, especially the veterans, I could commend them for that. And I do wish the best for everyone there. Current, ex, starting up a new company. Because it's difficult. I understand the difficulty of being a game developer. I've done stuff game development. And whether it be animations, like even simple animations can take you a little bit depending on what you're trying to go for, to the more complicated stuff with multiplayer. That's just not with netcode, that's with servers, that's with just even the design, how you're going to lay out your map, what covers can be there permanently, what can be destroyed. And I enjoyed the things that Battlefield 5 gave, but what I really enjoyed the most was the fan base coming together and demanding a better game. But what I can't commend is EA's willingness to just throw the game away and then hope that Battlefield 2042 was going to be the better game. The fact that they were banking on that is the more sad part. It should be the player base banking on that game. It shouldn't be the developers banking on the player base to bank on the game and hope that it's well done. And I'm not disappointed in that. I'm not disappointed in the new development team. I'm not disappointed in that. I'm disappointed that they couldn't look backwards for 2 seconds and say, this isn't up to standard. This isn't up to what people expect, especially in the gaming industry as games become more and more complex. Damn, this is going on forever. I think it's better to leave it at that. But yeah, I think that's it. Battlefield 5, okay. Cautious buy, whatever. That's probably all you wanted to hear, and I don't mind that. Next game? I don't know. Don't know what I'm going to review next. I have an idea, but hey, what the hell's that? Calling card? CTG? It's not real. Whatever. Alright. See you guys later.
Are we gonna play now? Ready for the show? I'm about to take down, you already know. Get the fuck out of my face now, yeah, you gotta go. Man, I'm on the chase now, leave me on my own. I got a chance to break now, here I fucking go. Take control of fate now, I control my flow. And I know that
All done! Yes!